Our adventure starts with this 2D animation, wherein a family's taking a road trip while their boy's doing a little sketch. The parents are laughing about it, but here comes what ended Group B racing. A cliffside accident. The parents are safe, with the kid going Homelander lifting the truck up in the air. His parents are amazed at that. But of course, snap back to reality. Looks like this boy was drawing the entire thing all along on this big sheet of paper. Let's switch up the scene to these suits, discussing how they have a troublesome kid on their hands. The kid they're describing is totally erratic, and his parents were regarded to be Olympic heroes. Sadly, they got game-ended in a car accident, and now the lines begin to connect. The bald guy says only the kid survived, and Bootleg Keanu says this info is top secret. The suit then visits the kid. Then he tells him some info about his father. Now the suit thinks he can totally go for the gold in the Olympics like his father, but thanks to his trauma, the kid only wants to draw cartoons cause that gives him pure bliss. Well, the suit's thinking that's ridiculous, and he even breaks his pencil. Some people be so daft about art.
뭔 개벽다구 같은 소리야?
Well, a scene switch happens and we get this of a young man going through droves and droves of gunmen with nothing but his silenced pistol and his sheer wrath. He finally gets to this blonde monkey and says he's under arrest. Looking like the dudes from a counterterrorism organization, and a meeting in the same organization occurs. The feds talk about this worldwide terrorist who was caught in Vladivostok years ago but escaped.
국정은 불분명하지만 한국계로 알려져 있다.
The man at the back is drawing the speaker with devil horns, and then the speaker talks about another dangerous terrorist, and this one was caught by none other than Ace Agent Kim Bong-jun, the man doing that amazing sketch. They're tasked to eliminate a certain terrorist, then the meeting's adjourned. After the meeting, we see Jun working hard on his manhwa, and he looks like he's having a blast. That's until duty calls. He reports to this interrogation facility immediately. Then we see the sad pleb who got caught by Agent Jun. His superior says they need to extract more info from the guy, and got a tip that his terrorist brother is about to bounce, so Agent Jun has to eliminate him before he gets away. A knock on the door. Then in comes Chol, a trainee for the force. The superior says Chol's following Jun's footsteps.
끌려온 게 아니라 선택받은 겁니다.
But Jun thinks they both got dragged in here. Suddenly, the interrogated dude flatlines, so now he's got to leave and hunt down his brother. A helicopter seen sweeping through heavy rain, and it looks like it's carrying Jun, but he's far too busy with his sketching.
그런다고 그만두게 할 것 같아?
Apparently, he sketched himself a funeral portrait, just in case he doesn't make it. After that, it's game time, and Jun's chute isn't opening as he's plummeting out of the sky and into waters. And he dies, straight up the end. The agents have a funeral for him, and they actually used his sketch, and then his buddies tearfully bid him a farewell.
잊지 않을 거다.
Somewhere in the open seas, Jun's still alive and is swimming towards land. Now that he's technically off the force, he can go after his dream of being a cartoonist. 15 years pass by. A lot of drawings later, and it looks like Jun seems to be suffering for his dream. He gets in a heated argument with his boss thanks to his tardy art submissions, and that his comics get no views. A story of every artist, I suppose. Suddenly, a girl comes up behind him and smacks him for forgetting to pay the bills. Apparently, this woman is his wife, and then she says she's about to leave for work, but Jun needs some money. She reluctantly gives him some and then leaves.
나만 쓸 것 같지.
Jun then wakes up his daughter, Kim Ga-young, because it's time for school. He does a little Tarantino gesture and then cooks some food for his daughter. Sadly, even his daughter belittles him and his art career, and it's a little too close to reality. After his daughter leaves for school, Jun's smoking outside, hanging upside down, thinking of a good ending for his manhwa. A neighbor startles him, and he gets back to work. He toils for a few hours, and then he sends his work over. It's time to clean the house. After this sped-up montage of him cleaning the house, he gets word from the news that someone's eyes got gouged out while being brutally mutilated. And then he gets feedback for his manhwa, and it's not good. Come on, can't be as bad as Rent a Girlfriend. He tries to give himself a one-up through the comments, but he makes it obvious that he's the artist. So here comes the ratio. Meanwhile, Ga-young is out here vibrating her way down the streets, up until she almost gets run over by this truck if it weren't for Jun that just saved her.
그때도 그랬잖아. 사고 난다니까.
She sniffs out that her dad's been smoking again, so she blackmails him to get her headphones back. Sneaky. They head to the park and Jun talks about his webtoon. Ga Young says it looks like her father worked hard on his manhwa, but honestly, she and her friends say it sucks. She gives him advice and says to make the manhwa about his story, just like how she writes rap about her stories. But Jun's afraid to write his real story down because he thinks all of Korea might just flip over his secret agent background. His daughter leaves peacefully with her friend and Jun gets a call from his boss. He tells him to end his manhwa by the next chapter, mainly because it's going viral. His boss has given him his full support until now, so Jun's begging on his knees.
다 됐어. 댓글만 2만 개야.
Sadly, his boss hangs up and he's in total disarray. Somewhere in a construction site, Jun's finding himself working at this place, and he gets scolded by this guy for not doing it right. He tries to badmouth him, but it just resorts to him dancing like an idiot. Back at home, Jun is seen daytime drinking, and he's totally crestfallen about his career. He watches this show about a comic book artist making a lot of moolah, so he's getting jealous. He then resorts to reading his rancid comments about his failed manhwa, so he gets working. He uses that anger as a motivator, starts sketching a dark 2D animation where these kids are being brutally trained for Secret Service. Either they ace that training or they rot in the streets. The kids suffer during the training regiment, even being forced to jump off a helicopter. Soon, the kids grow and adapt to the grueling training. Then one of them has a chance to become a SHIELD team agent. Nice Marvel rip. With this last test, the kid tries his luck. Then we're back to Jun's perspective. He tries remembering what he did next back then, so he recreates his old martial art moves. A bit rusty, but he still got it.
아직 죽지 않았어.
And back to the 2D world of the kid beating up the agents to become the SHIELD agent known as Jun. With that epic start to a new manhwa, Jun falls asleep, but then he gets up, only to find his wife cooking a lot of good food. She says he's been working hard, so whipped up a feast for him. Heck, even apologizing for their recent fights. Apparently his new manhwa's already quite the smash hit. His wife's taking credit for uploading it while he slept.
이거 도와줘도 지랄이야 진짜.
He didn't want to upload it, but it was too late. Looking like he still thinks his past will catch up to him if he uploads it. So he goes to his boss/editor's office the next day and begs for it to be taken down. The boss refuses because it's a real hit. He eventually gets on his boss's nerves, but he gets him out of that office to draw the next chapter. It begins to rain, and he goes to pick up his daughter, but she goes with her friend instead, and he hears him belittling his occupation. He heads home in sadness. Then he reads his daughter's secret rap lyrics notebook.
모든 건 돈, 바로 돈 때문.
He breaks down in tears because he finds out that his daughter is worried for her parents due to money problems. Moved by his daughter's rap, he gets motivated to draw another episode. This time, it's about a big criminal bust in Vladivostok. Special Agent Jun is on the scene to eliminate the bad guys with a sniper rifle. He takes out a few of them and moves in to get the rest. Guns a-blazing, fists a-flying. Even an RPG getting popped off, but he makes it through. Soon, the big guy obstructs him from the real criminal and he defeats this hulking oaf swiftly. He makes a beeline for the real bad guy. He hijacks his car and finally knifes him in the eye. He jumps out and cue the cool guys don't look at explosions. Looks like the bad guy made it out though. Back to the real world. Everyone's reading Jun's manhwa. When I say everyone, I mean everyone. Artists, bums, kids. I mean, Chainsaw Man just came out, but apparently this is what catches people's eyes. Eventually, Jun and his wife surprise Ga Young with that keyboard that she's been wanting so much. Then we're introduced to Chief Chon Duk-kyo. This guy looks like an investigator.
내일 오전 9시 청와대 홈페이지에
And he's after a bomb threat that was trailed back here. He then notices some kids trying to look at their PCs and see if they did the bomb threat. The kids are talking about Jun's manhwa and they say Duk-kyo's name is similar to the brutal trainer from the manhwa, which Duk-kyo regards as information being classified. The kids then show him the manhwa and he brings the word to his superiors. They have a board meeting about it, and it looks like there's been classified information breach. The meeting points to the one source of the manhwa, Jun himself.
만화에 나온 작전들이 모두 투입된 요원.
In fact, they think that Jun has something to do with the recently taken out agents. Well, their last line from SHIELD team might be Chol, so they try to get in contact with him. Well, Chol is now posing as a heartthrob beggar, and he gets a call saying he should head back to HQ because Jun might be alive. After appealing to his little fans, he gets a ride out of there. and they go straight to the editor's office. There they quickly interrogate the head editor and ask him who's drawing the manhwa. They're trying to track Jun down because he's a spy, but the editor's laughing at that accusation. He's thinking it's all a prank, until he gets his arm in a twist. Meanwhile, Jun at the construction site gets a call from his boss.
이번 회 반응도 죽여.
But then he gets called back to work by this rancid worker, so he hangs up. Then we have a convoy screeching by and it looks like the jig is up. Jun's making a run for it. Then the dudes catch him in the bathroom. He's claiming to be the wrong guy, saying his name is Kim Seo-hyuk. Agents aren't buying it. So it's time for an action-packed cutscene. He beats up all the guys, while the editor, the guys from the agency, and his stingy construction boss watch in secret. Once he's done, he silently threatens his boss with a flurry of fists and makes a run for it.
가잖아, 딴 데 돌려봐!
He heads home, packs his stuff, and immediately tells his wife. Of course, she's thinking he's drunk, so she hangs up. Jun's home, then gets gassed and swatted. Using the power of some laundry pincers, he fights off the SWAT cops, only for one of them to reveal themselves as Chol. Then he gets tased and knocked out. At the editor's office, a group of crooks ransack the place. Turns out they're led by none other than the real Jason Lee. The editor thinks it's cosplay.
그 웹툰 그린 놈 찾고 있는데.
But then Jason shows his wrath and beats the editor stiff. In a secret facility, Jun's interrogated, and Chol feels betrayed that he faked his termination. Apparently, after he went gonzo, the SHIELD team project was scrapped, and Chol was the last one in there. Deok Kya comes in to kick down his old student, and he's really frustrated that Jun just disappeared after investing millions on him. But Jun's like he just wanted to draw for a living. Soon, director Choi comes in, and let's just say he and Jun don't get along, and it resorts to another tussle.
일단 나가서 얘기하시죠.
After a bit of a break to calm everyone down, Jun's wife calls, so Chol lets him have it. Surprise, it's Jason on the call. He's got his wife hostage, and he's got 20 minutes to get to a tunnel and have the chief with him, or else Jason chops up his wife like Makima. Jun has no choice but to feign a confession to espionage, so he talks to Deok Kya only. With his amazing reflexes, he gets him as a hostage.
너 이 새끼 내가 이럴 줄 알았어.
Jun's forced to fight through the building while holding him at gunpoint. They get away in this car. Then Jun explains that he's going to give him away in exchange for his kidnapped wife. Back at HQ, the director gives all the agents lethal permission to take down Jun and get Deok Kya back. The feds are gaining on him, but he loses them like a Need for Speed driver. He calls Jason up as he approaches the tunnel, notifying him that he's got the chief. Jason wants his pursuers to flock off, so Jun sets up a trap and takes out all of his pursuers. After that, he hijacks another car and zips off. Shortly afterwards, one of Jason's men comes in to finish off the knocked out agents. Back to Jun. He calls Chief Editor Park Kyo-man to know what happened, and he confirms Jason is the one holding his wife, and he is responsible for the recent brutal agent assassinations. Sadly, the editor updated the webtoon and it shows Jason's brother being horribly tortured. Jason gets wind of this and he begins to talk down on Jun's wife.
사람 잘못 보셨습니다.
While director Choi goes mad that Jun has eliminated all their agents, and he thinks that he's in cahoots with Jason. A new card's in play, cause the agency got a hold of Guy Young. Meanwhile, in Jun's car, something vibrates. It's coming from Deok Kya's pants. He hid a phone in his crotch, so Jun takes a call from director Choi in a compromising position. The director has his daughter, so he blackmails him with her life. Our boy is caught between a rock and a hard place, so he goes after his wife first. Actually, he takes a U-turn at the last second upon seeing his wife, Kim Mi-na, so she's left devastated. Jun then calls Jason and tells him the agency has him on the ropes, and he promises to come back at a later time to settle their deal. Since he's branded with treason, Jason gives him that chance. Mi-na, back at the holding facility, gets free with nothing but her wits and a few bottles of liquor. Chol then gets word that the director kidnapped Jun's daughter, so he tries to reason with the director, but he's at his wits' end. Chol then assists her to the bathroom, and it turns out Chol busted her out.
아빠한테 데려다 주는 거죠.
Guy Young then contacts Jun, telling him to meet him at an airport, so it's time for Jun to drive dangerously again. He makes that beeline for the rendezvous, and there he meets Guy Young standing in the open. Jun hurriedly embraces his daughter, and doesn't all of this look like a trap? Well, surprise, surprise, it is a trap made by Chol. He's asking Jun to surrender, but Guy Young recognizes Chol from Jun's drunken babbles from the past. Cho's holding him at gunpoint, but Ga-young tells a sob story of how pathetic Jun's recent life is.
할머니, 할아버지한테도 맨날
So she's begging him to put that gun down. Everyone gets convinced. Then Dak-kyo breaks the news to Ga-young that he got kidnapped because Jun was going to trade him for Mina. Chol's offering his help, and so does Dak-kyo, so he gets uncuffed. They all head to the old SHIELD team hideout.
여기 좀 보시겠어요?
And Chol even kept his old drawings. Open the fridge and it's a feast of guns. The boys get armed up for their most dangerous mission yet. Then they gotta walk in slow-mo out on the streets. Sadly, the feds are close by, so Jun uses Chol as a fall guy, but he seems to be cool with it. The rest of the gang go to where Jason is, and they have no choice but to keep Ga-young around, cause she isn't safe anywhere else. Soon, Jun confirmed that everyone in the webtoon was true, and Dak-kyo gets a few slaps from Ga-young for putting Jun through such a tough time. The two idiots then remember they left the bag of toys back with Chol, but sadly, director Choi has it now.
단독 행동은 절대 용서 안 된다.
Chol's lying that he just went after Jun himself, and that he was beaten up. Ironically, this makes Choi send Chol after Jun to terminate him, or else he gets terminated himself. Back to Jun and friends, they get to Jason's secret facility, but Ga-young hides in the car. Dak-kyo and Jun get searched. Then Ga-young makes a secret call. Choi picks up in anger, so Chol is left to talk instead. Ga-young says she was instructed to call this number. Then she live streams Jun and Dak-kyo being cornered by Jason and his men. The director then orders his men to track down their location.
제이슨 저 사이코 새끼.
Jason finally confronts the two, but then divulges sensitive information on how Jun stuck a knife in Jason's face and kidnapped his brother, while Dak-kyo tortured and eliminated him without mercy. Jason's in full rage at the two of them, and reveals that he is the one responsible for the brutal agent assassinations popping out on the news recently. Jason kept his end of the bargain by keeping Mina alive and safe, but she's a little drunk over there. Jun rushes to her, and Jason's men throw punches and kicks. This angers Mina, making her go full sicko, stealing a gun and lighting that place up like an American school.
Shit.
And then starts throwing hands with Jason's goons. Well, like Jun, Mina also has a wild, drunken imagination, thanks to her drinking all of Jason's expensive liquor. Jun then rushes to her side, but she's hitting him for deserting her earlier. So now, the truth comes out that he's not really Kim Seo-hyuk, but he's really Kim Bong-jun. Jason's amused at that story, so he begins to beat Dak-kyo like it's December 1st. Jun intervenes, saying that he should take Dak-kyo's place. Jason has a better idea.
저놈이 내 동생한테 한 거.
Jun should torture Dak-kyo like he tortured his brother. If he doesn't comply, Mina will be full of lead. Jun's left with no choice but to zap the living daylights out of Dak-kyo. Jason's seen enough, and now wants to burn Jun to a crisp, but the feds arrive just in time. They take most of Jason's men and cuff him.
내 남편 말이 맞아요. 이놈.
A heated blame game comes out, disputing if Jun was the assassin or not, so he's held at gunpoint by Choi's men. Sadly, Chol takes the bullet for Jun yet again, and Jun quickly retaliates. Looks like one of Jay's men gets to the snipers and takes out a lot of feds, including Jun. Jason takes everyone hostage, and the still alive Chol is blaming the director for this whole mess.
나 그 새끼를 먼저 죽여버렸네?
Right when Jason was about to shoot Mina, Jun's revealed to still be alive, looking like Kevlar saved him, and he causes a riot by shooting at leaked gas. Jun reconciles with his family and springs into full action. Dak-kyo protects Jun's family while Jun goes after Jason. After catching up with him, Jun buried Jason in a shallow automobile grave. After some time, Jun's back to drawing manhwa, and it looks like he, Chol, and his family are living a better life. Chol still tries to convince Jun to get back to the force, but his family keeps convincing him to go on with manhwa, and you know the rest. Pencils up, cause that was it for Hitman Agent Jun. What'd you guys think about this top secret comic movie? Let us know in those comments below, always using that hashtag cinema recap. This was Hitman Agent Jun by Barry Good Studio, starring Kwon Sang-woo, Jung Joon-ho, and Jo Woon. Until the next issue, see you later.